Years ago. He's a known critic of what SADC has been trying to achieve in Zimbabwe. A very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Thank you, Elvis.
Now, as the SABC, we spoke to you last night, and you indicated that President Robert Mugabe is not someone who will be resigning anytime soon. Do we know if he's still digging in his heels?
Of course. He worships power. He is power. If you cut his veins, power oozes from it. So he is in a totally distorted reality field. He actually thinks that he's in control. That is why even after the humiliation of a military coup, the humiliation of watching hundreds of thousands of Zimbabweans across the world demonstrate against him on Saturday, watching his own party dump him through some of his most loyal people like Obed Mpofu, he still thinks he can hold on. So we are dealing with a totally psychological, extreme case of psychosis. He has to step down to give up for a chance.
Now, we've heard there from the war veterans in their press briefing today that they want Robert Mugabe to step down. Is he listening?
He won't listen. He won't listen. He will not step down. He sees Zimbabwe as a private property. His sense of entitlement and impunity is so accentuated. He will be a classical study in psychology and psychosis.
Now, we saw protests on Saturday, but Chris Mutsuvanga, who has been leading a campaign to oust Mugabe, is reported to have told some media sources that people would take to the streets again on Wednesday. Do we know what form of resistance this is?
I think that multiple actions are required. Multiple actions are required, and we mustn't lose sight of the ball here. Mugabe, for all intents and purposes, is gone. So all that is left are the legal processes just to get him out. And of course, those legal processes are important because we mustn't abandon the constitution. We mustn't abandon the rule of law. So number one, there is only one legal process to terminate him in the event and in the absence of a resignation, and that is a formal impeachment in terms of Section 97 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. So this has to be done, and this has to be done so scrupulously well. There must be strict compliance with the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Whether we like it or not, Mugabe will be entitled to a right to be heard, to a right to legal counsel. So all those things must be respected. So the process will take maybe 2-3 weeks because the law has to be respected. Secondly, of course, people have got a right to go on the street, so street action will be important. Third, and very decisively, let's begin the conversation the morning after. Mugabe is gone, so what? We object strongly to announcement made by people like Chinamasa that this is an internal ZANU-PF issue, we'll resolve it internally. It is not an internal ZANU-PF issue. So as Zimbabweans, we're entitled to a clear roadmap on the return to legitimacy. We're entitled to clear discussions on the authority that will run this country between now and the time we are ready to go to an election. And of course, that process has to be inclusive. ZANU-PF has to be there. The soldiers have to be in that discussions, not necessarily as part of the authority, but certainly in the discussions that give rise to. And that authority must have signposts, clear programs of the reforms that we so desperately need to as it were, de-ZANU-nize the country, to de-Mugabe-nize the country. These conversations are important. And of course, the international community in the form of the African Union, the UN, even SADC, must have a role in underwriting and guaranteeing this process. So let's think of the morning after, because these melodramatic fun and games are temporal. Mugabe is gone, bar the legal issues that we all have to deal with.
What about critics who say that constitutional provisions allow President Mugabe to fire anyone, and that those who were tasked with negotiating around the Constitution Parliamentary Committee or COPAC slept on the job, allowing ZANU-PF and the President in particular to amass increased executive powers?
Yeah, you've mixed a number of points there. The first point, the Constitution doesn't allow Mugabe to fire everyone. So Mugabe can't fire judges, he can't fire members of parliament. So this power is restricted. But you are right to say that in Chapter 5 of the Constitution, we created an all too powerful imperial president. So I think that one of the unfinished business of will be constitutional reform, in particular revisiting the huge powers that we give to an executive president in Chapter 5. And of course, ZANU-PF too made the same mistake by giving to him too much power in terms of their constitution. So there will be constitutional debate both within the state and within ZANU-PF itself. But as far as the impeachment, he can't do anything about it. All he needs are sharp lawyers who try to raise some defenses. But for all intents and purposes, Mugabe is gone.
Now, there are some unconfirmed reports, and I must stress unconfirmed reports, and I'm not too sure if you're aware of it, that the president has handed in his resignation. He's got a cut-off date or cut-off time for 12 o'clock today. Do you know about this? I don't
know why the South African media is obsessed by these rumors of a resignation. Mugabe will not resign for the umpteenth time.
So that is close. That's close of session there. He will not resign. So what will it take to get him out of power?
The whole of last week, he quarreling with some of your people. I think there's a girl called Kamisa, whatever, who I had a talk show with Ibo Mandaza. And she kept, oh, yes, resigning. I kept telling you, don't know Mugabe. The old man is totally bonkers. He will not resign.
What will it take to let him go?
We want him going like yesterday. It's him who doesn't want to go. And as I said to you, he worships power. He's a Satanist. He worships power. He breathes power. So he won't go. He wants to die in his office. That's what he told himself 100 years ago. That's his intention. So you are disturbing of his ambition of dying in his office, because Zimbabwe is Robert Mugabe Private Limited, and you can't take that away from his warped thinking.
I thank you so much for your time and joining us on the line, sir. That was Tendai Biti. Of course, he was once Zimbabwe's finance minister and has recently lambasted Mugabe for holding on to power, saying that those who think that Mugabe is going anywhere, you should forget.